Hello and welcome to the Irish Mammy channel. I've come to the Polytunnel today to escape the weather outside. It's absolutely bucketing down. Storm David is coming through, passing across the country today. Heavy rain so far, gusty wind, and the wind is set to get fairly bad over the next few hours. So we'll probably see the plastic bulging in and out. I'm hoping you can hear me okay over the rain. But today I've come to the Polytunnel to plant strawberries. So I think in my last video I spoke about strawberries that I have in my raised bed outside my greenhouse at home. They haven't done very well over the last 2 years. This is probably their third year, and it's supposed to be the best year for strawberries. It's their third year. And that remains to be seen. Of course, they'll need to be fed. You know, regular fertilisation is important to get a good crop. But because it is likely their last year for production, I have decided that I'm going to plant them in the Polytunnel this year. So I've chosen a crop. There's a couple of different types of strawberries that you can get. One type of strawberry is called June bearing strawberry, and that just means that it produces its fruit over 4 to 6 weeks max, I would think. Basically it's producing all its fruit at once. And these are definitely a good idea to have, especially if you're jam making, or if you're going to preserve them in any way, freeze them even. It's nice to get them all in within a couple of weeks and have your job done. The other type is called Everbearing, and they produce over a longer period, usually from June to maybe August and even September, depending again on how fertile your soil is and how often you feed them. So this type that I'm planting here today in the Polytunnel is called Albion. You can probably see the name on them. I only have 10 plants. So the bed I'm planting behind me, I have actually 30 planting spaces in that bed. So my plan was to plant out 10 plants this year and hopefully take runners from my plants. So the strawberries produce runners, which are baby plants, when they get a little bit stressed, and towards the end of the season they'll produce them as well. And you can take these runners and propagate them, and then you'll have new plants. And it's just something they do naturally in the wild. Strawberries produce runners, and that's how they spread and produce more fruit. So I intend to collect the runners from these strawberries and hopefully get 10 more plants and plant those in the bed next year. And the following year I intend to do the same, and then I'll have the bed full. And that keeps me with my 3-year cycle in this bed at all times. So I'll have, in the third year, I'll have first year strawberries, second year strawberries, and third year strawberries. And with a little bit of luck, I should be able to take out my third year strawberries after their third year production and have 10 more 1-year runners to replace them. That's the plan. I picked this particular variety because it is an ever-bearing variety, but it's also an early producer. And you can see already I have flowers on these strawberries, and there's several more buds there that just haven't flowered yet. There's another flower. So it definitely is an early producer. It has proven that to me now. I've had these for a couple of weeks in the greenhouse at home. I did order 2 other varieties of strawberries, but they will be for outdoor planting at home. I've just decided I have very little fruit production, and even last year I had, like I said, very few strawberries and needed to make jam, and I ended up buying from a fruit stand. Now there's nothing wrong with buying from the fruit stand, of course, and it is good to support local producers. So strawberries are one of those fruits that are regularly sprayed, and for that reason I prefer to have my own. I'm the type that very rarely will buy strawberries in the shop. I figure I'll buy them when they're in season if I have not got my own, which is what I did last year. I bought oh, I don't know how many kilos, probably 10 or 15 kilos of strawberries, and made strawberry jam, as well as ate them fresh from the tub as well. So I like to have my own strawberries. I've had varying luck over the years with strawberries, and so this year I'm going to try use the polytunnel to have more of a guarantee that I'll have fruit. Strawberry plants grown here in Ireland are very subjected to different fungal issues. Like with such a wet climate, it really doesn't help things, and it's very hard to get good yield from outdoor grown strawberries. And you may have a dry spell and you'll get a lovely yield of strawberries in dry weather, definitely, I don't deny that, especially if they have been well fertilised. But more often than not we have rain, even in the summer it's just warm rain, and so the strawberries themselves, even if they're producing well, the actual strawberries, the berries get soft really quickly. You know, because of the wet, again, if they're touching wet or touching soil, or even if you have Mypex around them, even if it's wet, they start to go off really, really quickly before they're even picked from the plant. So I'm hoping that's where the polytunnel will be a big help. They'll be that much drier in the polytunnel. They will only be getting water from the drip system. They'll be getting no overhead water whatsoever, and that should really help in the production. And as well as that, I have the Mypex down on these beds and it won't be getting wet either, so that will help keep the weeds down. Weeds are definitely probably enemy number 3 on the list, if I'm honest, to suppress your strawberry plants and stop them from producing as well. So strawberries, obviously, they're also susceptible to slugs. That's the number 1, I would say, is slugs. Number 1 pest. Enemy number 2 for the strawberries are woodlouse, or I think they're also called slaters or pill bugs. They just absolutely love to get into strawberries. People say that they don't eat fresh produce, so maybe it's when the strawberry actually starts to go brown and rot that it starts eating them. But either way, I have found many strawberries where the shell is intact and it looks like a lovely red juicy strawberry, and then when you pick it you realise it's hollow inside and there's a few slaters nesting inside it. So definitely another enemy for strawberries, and that will not be done away with here. There's still an issue, there's still a possibility in the polytunnel that I will still have that issue. But if they're only eating rotted flesh, hopefully I can avoid it somewhat. So back to this particular variety, this Albion. So this is supposed to be a very early producer, and it's supposed to produce actually all year round. Now, I don't fully expect it to produce all year round here in our climate, because we are going to still get cold. The polytunnel still gets cold in the winter time. So that remains to be seen if it's going to be a year-round producer. I'll be happy if it produces fairly heavily from May until September. I won't be looking for production outside of those months. But we'll see. We'll be on a journey together to see whether this actually is a good producer. My ideal strawberry variety for here would have been Seascape. I've heard very good reviews about Seascape, but they seem to be mostly available in the US, and maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe they don't produce well here in our climate. But I have seen varying reviews in different countries where they've done really, really well, but I have yet to get my hands on Seascape strawberries. They're supposed to produce really large berries for a very long period of time, and this Albion is supposed to be the closest that I can get to that. So hopefully we will get large strawberries, and that they'll produce for a good 5-6 months would be great. But like I say, this is an experiment. We'll see how it gets on, and I will definitely report back on how these Albion strawberries do in the polytunnel. Okay, so let's get planting. The sun is actually coming out now, so this is going to be great. It's going to get nice and warm in here. I'm going to get these planted and I'll come back and show you what they look like. And I did forget to add that one thing that's very important when planting strawberries is that you don't plant the crown down under the soil level. In fact, I'm going to keep them up probably a little more than I should, but the most common problem with strawberries is that they actually start to rot in that crown. You can see there, the crown is where all those little stalks and stems gather. And it's very easy for water to get down into that crown and to start rotting the plant. So I'm going to make sure that it's actually a big problem I have with bare root strawberries. Last year I think I bought about 50 or 60 plants bare root strawberries. So it is a good cheaper way to buy strawberries, is to buy them as bare roots in the winter. But I think I accidentally buried them too far in the pots, because I think out of the 50 or 60 plants I maybe got 8 or 10 at the most, and I was really disappointed after looking after them for so long, keeping them watered. It was very disappointing to only come out of it with a few plants. So I will be planting these slightly higher so that the crown is above the soil level. Even though they're not getting any overhead water here, I still want to just be doubly sure that they're not going to rot on me. And I suppose there's a chance in the winter that I will water them very occasionally for overhead in the winter, because the drip system won't be running near as often in the winter. Okay, let's get planting. Okay, there we are. Plants are in the ground. That was a quick project today. 10 little plants sitting nice and high. I will water them in now very soon. That'll be the only overhead water they should get between now and 3 years' time when I'm pulling them out. So those strawberries will need quite a bit of attention now over the next couple of weeks. They'll be getting fed with a tomato fertiliser. Because they are already starting to flower, I intend to feed them with tomato fertiliser probably every 2 weeks. Certainly for the first couple of months. It may wane after that. Just my inattention after that rather than not being necessary. But that's usually the way things go with me. I'm very diligent in the spring and early summer, and when it starts to get really busy and I'm still planting and sowing and then starting to harvest as well, some things fall by the wayside. So that's likely one thing that will fall by the wayside, but if you can at all, I would definitely urge you to keep on top of fertilising. So the tomato food is great for producing fruit, which obviously tomatoes are fruit as well. So it's very suitable for strawberries. High in potash, I think, which is what's needed for fruit production. The same for flowers as well. So fruit generally is coming from flowers, so you're looking to produce flowers first, followed by fruit. And then, like I said, I will be propagating them probably September, October time. I do intend to bring you along for that as well, and show you how to propagate strawberry runners and turn them into new plants. So the reality is, you should never, once you buy strawberries one year, you should never have to buy strawberries again. That, in theory anyway. That's certainly the plan for me. like I said, a 3-year plan here in this bed. I'll just turn you around and show that there are in fact 30 planting holes in this bed. This is one of the bigger beds. The one on this side and the one on the far side, both are bigger beds for some reason, and it actually leaves them awkward to get around, but however, I'm not going to complain about more planting space. Now, for the rest of this year, I'm not going to leave this bed empty. I will be filling it with something. Not quite sure yet. I hadn't planned for it. I may put a couple of squash in here, although I'd be afraid they might take over my strawberries. Maybe even French beans would be a good idea to put in here. Dwarf French beans. That might be my best bet. They'll not grow too big to inhibit the strawberries in any way. So that's it. That's my video for this week, planting strawberries. If you have any more questions about planting strawberries, please put them down below. I will be planting more strawberries at home. Like I said, I have 2 different varieties as well at home. Those are June bearing varieties, as we call them. I suppose they generally produce in June, but the idea is that they produce most of their fruit within a 4 to 6 week period. So those will be going in at home, and I'll probably bring you along at some stage for those as well, or at least include them in a tour. So there'll be lots of strawberry updates upcoming for the rest of the season. So if you've enjoyed this video, please don't forget to hit the like button down below, the thumbs up. Subscribe as well if you haven't already. I would really appreciate the support. I think 90-something% of those who view my videos are not subscribed. It would really help to push out my video if I was getting plenty of likes and some subscribers as well. I think I'm at 720 something subscribers. I would really like to hit that 1,000 mark. It's a big milestone with YouTube in getting monetized. I mean, there are other parameters as well, but getting 1,000 subscribers is definitely a big one. So like I said, I'd really appreciate your support on that. And don't forget to hit the notification bell as well. That will help you get notified when I put up a new video. I'm aiming to put up at least one video every week. That's the plan. And that way, if you're getting notifications as well, you'll be able to keep up with what's going on in the garden, how the strawberries are doing, all those different things, how everything's producing. So thank you very much for watching. I will see you again in the next video. Bye bye.